Adagio, Summoner.
Hello YouTube and my subscribers and people who are interested in learning how to support a little bit better, or perhaps people who are just looking to specialize in bottom lane for some solo queue, or just want to play multiple roles at bottom lane. I main support role, so when I'm supporting I see a lot of odd things. I see a lot of AD carries that get overwhelmed easily by things like aggressive supports, or at least very tanky supports like Alistar and Cho'Gath like we have here. So in this game I decided I would AD carry as Vayne, because in the group, in the character select screen, I saw that they had a lot of crowd control and characters that didn't have to pay so much attention to crowd control on their team. And hold on. Oh jeez. Okay, so as I was saying, they have a lot of crowd control and a lot of characters that don't have to worry so much about being controlled, like Alistar and Olaf, for instance. So I picked Vayne because I thought that we were going to have Alistar support, but he decided he was going to jungle. I picked Vayne because her tumble and her mobility and her ability to just genuinely stay away from Alistar, so she doesn't have to worry about things like headbutt pulverize combos. Because of her tumble and condemn, I can really zone Alistar out and not really have too much of a problem with him, in comparison to carries like Varus and Ashe, and you know, the low mobility carries. So when you see that you have Alistar or Cho'Gath in your lane, you really want to take a character with high mobility, because Alistar in particular really suffers from not being able to do anything except be a heal bot in lane if he can't actually headbutt you. So you just got to keep those things in mind, and if you don't have really mobile AD carries at your disposal, you just got to make that up somehow. But anyway, so the thing about supporting in a lane like this is that you really can't get too aggressive. My support is playing Sona, so I told her I didn't want her to harass too much, like the typical Sona Q poke. And as you can see, I told her early to ward, because they have a really good team for invade. They have Morgana's stun, Cho'Gath's knockup, Alistar's knockup or headbutt. You have Olaf's slow if he throws an axe. So they have a really good invade in comparison to what we had, which was decent for defending an invade, but not too great for invading in particular. So I told her to stand in a position where if they did choose to invade, she'd be able to get away quickly. You know, if one of us dies, then so be it. But I didn't want her to stand there, so I told her to go over to this bush here, so that in the event that they invaded, she would be able to get away. And like I said, we have our ward down here in the tri-bush, so we'd be able to see this entrance. So they would have to come around, you know, and we'd be able to get away from that pretty easily. Lee Sin has good mobility. He would have just jumped onto either myself or Sona, and he would have gotten away. I would have been able to tumble out, so we were in a good position to go ahead and get red with no problem. But because of that, we ended up not having a river ward. Oh jeez, this thing. We ended up not having a river ward here for certain invasions, or for certain ganks, especially with Alistar. You really have to have that early ward. There's some junglers that you don't have to worry about really strong ganks too much until level 6, but for Alistar in particular, you want to have that. You want to have it early, because he ganks a lot, he ganks frequently, and he ganks hard. Okay, so back to this lane. She took her Q first for the poke, but I told her after the fact, you know, I really don't want you poking in this lane. Cho'Gath has a silence. Jesus, this thing is really getting on there. Cho'Gath has a silence. So what ends up happening is that Sona will go into poke, and then she'll get silenced, and she'll get knocked up and bursted by Graves and Cho'Gath, and it just wasn't worth it. So I just figured, you know, poke when you can, but max your heal in this lane and just let me do most of the work. Now the good thing about a support Cho'Gath lane that you don't really have to worry about too much is like heals. A mistake that this Graves made, see if I can pull the menu back up. Uh-oh. Nope. See, I don't know if I can get the menu up. Oh jeez, that's not good. There we go. Alright, a mistake that this Graves made in this lane is he took an early Doran's blade. You really don't want to do that if you don't have a support that has any sustain in your lane, because again, Vayne has really high mobility and really good poke as long as you have your silver bolts. And so I can, when he throws a buckshot, I have basically a couple of seconds where I can poke him for all 3 silver bolts, and he can't do anything about it except run away. So he really, in a lane where you don't have sustain as your support, you're better off taking boots and potions, because see, I can just go in on him. He's already used his buckshot. The only thing he can do is run away from me. You know, I wanted to poke him down, see if the ignite would pull him off, but no, I messed up. No big deal. The Cho'Gath, the thing about Cho'Gath that support players and AD carries don't understand is that when you have a support Cho'Gath in your lane, the thing you want to do is poke him down. The good thing about it that we talked about earlier is mobility. If you have the mobility, you can avoid the silence and you can avoid the knock-up, and after that, just like Graves, you can just poke him down and all he can do about it is walk away. You want to keep Cho'Gath from feasting. If you can kill Cho'Gath, do it every single time. If you let him feast too much, or if you let him get too far ahead of your support, he's going to become tanky and you won't be able to do anything about him. Because again, he has that silence, he has his feast, he has all these things that can just make him a real pain in lane. And you don't want that. You want to keep Cho'Gath tiny, you want to keep his resistances low. You know, you just want to keep him as low resource as possible, so that way you can always poke him down when you need to. I told my support to go ahead and go back to buy wards, because I know Cho'Gath, or Alistar was gonna be ganking soon. He hadn't ganked bot yet, but I just knew it was coming, and I didn't want us to get caught and die to, you know, Alistar herp derpness. So I just told her to go ahead and get one. I can hold the lane. They can't really do anything to me. And because of my boots, because I had, you know, the potions early, I still have 2 potions at this point. I tumble away from the silence right there because, you know, I saw him going for it. I avoided the knock-up, tumbled away from the silence, poked him down real hard. I chunked him. Now he has to back off. If my Lee Sin were around, that would pretty much be an easy gank for Lee Sin. I noticed Graves was trying to put some poke on the tower, so I just got him off of it. So now I'm low on mana because I've been using some unnecessary condemns to try to clear up minions because I'm behind on CS at this point. Only by a couple, 2 or 3, but I tried to keep up and I ended up blowing my mana. The mana wasn't too important in this lane though, because again, they have nothing to sustain them. They have no harass that I have to worry about. So putting Cho'Gath in this lane was a real liability for them. And we have wards, you know, we're really well warded here and here. And so Alistar's only jungling path for a gank would have to be behind our turret. But we have our Lee Sin coming in for a gank here. I think he takes out Cho'Gath pretty easily. And I believe, yeah, I know what happens here. Alright, so I go in on Graves, and I see that he's low, so I flash, and I kill him. Now, the path I should have taken was back down through the turret, like this way, but I didn't notice that Alistar was coming up from behind him, so I just get taken out and jumped on by Alistar. There was nothing I could do about it. I just told my support, you know, go back to lane. This was my fault. Don't die for me. Just leave. So she goes back. But you know, at this point I have a kill on Graves. Cho'Gath has been forced out of lane a lot, so he's behind in levels in comparison to my Sona, who's level 5 versus Cho'Gath's 4. My Sona, who's level 5 versus Cho'Gath's 4. So when you get an advantage like this, you really want to abuse the advantage as best you can. Now, because of our wards, we saw Morgana and Alistar down here. In any normal case, this would be a really bad situation, but again, we have the vision, we saw them, we saw what they were doing. So it ended up not being such a big deal. Now the issue here is my support went around to the bush. She shouldn't have done that.